Razabane for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. Spence, we went a week without doing an interview, which is surprising. We were doing one a week, but we missed one last week. How are we doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Even better for speaking to you, Raz. Lots have been going on, so yeah, I'm pretty happy, man. I'm pretty happy.
Absolutely. Spence, obviously, I want to touch base with you as always before a big fight week approaches us. Next week, the unified champion of the world, Anthony Joshua, returns back to the ring, Tottenham Hotspur Football Stadium against Alexander Usyk. And there's no one I know better that could break down this fight than yourself. Obviously, we've seen Usyk here on the shores. He fought Derek Chisora. He's fought Tony Bellew at cruiserweight. Firstly, just want to touch on Usyk. How good or how great of a cruiserweight was he?
Now that I don't believe he's never going to campaign at cruiserweight, right? Usyk, I would say, is top three cruiserweights of all time. Maybe top two. But I don't believe he's better than Evander Holyfield. But he is excellent. Seriously. If I had a young kid trying to learn things, I'll even though he's a southpaw, but how he dips over to his right and then comes back up with a jab, like lean over and then come back with a jab. He's very, very good. And he does it from a cupped guard as well. He's a very, very, very good fighter. Easily a pound for pound top 5 for the simple fact of his work at cruiserweight. I'm looking at him as a fighter, and we're saying pound for pound, so we're excluding any weights. So him in the pound for pound, he's higher than Anthony Joshua. Him in the heavyweight division, he's not higher than Anthony Joshua. It's one of those kind of ones. But yeah, he's fantastic.
Spence, you said he's maybe top 2, and obviously you compared him to obviously Evander Holyfield. But what is the differentiation between being an elite cruiserweight and becoming a great or an elite heavyweight? What does one need to have when making that transition?
Well, I think he's got most of the attributes anyway. Lloyd Honeyghan, former undisputed world welterweight champion, said it's never the fact of whether you're big enough, it's whether you're good enough. And I think that rule goes for all the other weights in boxing, right? But that rule doesn't exist in the heavyweight division. So we go all the way down from light flyweight all the way up to cruiserweight, then it stops there. Then the enigma of the whole sport is the heavyweight division. And when we look on heavyweights, they are different size now. We have a modern heavyweight, which started, I would say, from Riddick Bowe when he became world heavyweight champion in 1992 when he beat Evander Holyfield. And that was the sign of the start of the big men coming into the division, guys who easily could be 240 pounds. You know what I mean? That's when we saw that kind of change. And then Lennox Lewis, the Klitschkos, we've seen this massive growth in the heavyweights. So it's been a change. Similarly to when Ali beat Sonny Liston, February 25th, 1964, where Liston was always the big guy. He was the big man. And then for once, he was up with a guy that was actually taller than he, right? And more athletic, and he just didn't know how to handle it. So it's one of those things. So every now and then we get these changes. We get these changes in the evolution of the sport. And I think we're seeing that of the evolution now when you're looking at guys like Tyson Fury, which is ridiculous size, right? And so I think that because of that evolution, I think it's going to be very, very difficult for someone like Usyk to be able to compete with Anthony Joshua simply for the fact that of these 2 accounts that I've seen of him at heavyweight, Chaz Witherspoon, he was unimpressive in that fight, and also in the Derek Chisora fight, he was unimpressive in that fight. So I'm looking at those 2 fights and saying, is that really going to get you ready for someone like Anthony Joshua? No. The thing is this, if Anthony Joshua opts to box with Usyk, then he's in for a long night, because if you look at the feet that the man possesses and how he positions you into shots so he can throw his left hand at you, from dipping over to side, coming up with a right hand jab, then he throws his left hand, and then he's back on his jab. It could be a very, 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 very long, torrid night for Anthony Joshua. But if Anthony Joshua has any sense, I believe what he should do is watch Evander Holyfield versus Michael Moorer 2, the second fight. And in the second fight, what Evander Holyfield would do is deliberately pour out with his left jab, keep on pointing his left jab, keep on pointing his left jab to avoid the right hand jab of a southpaw, and also to avoid the left hand power shot from a southpaw. And you just keep on pouring out that hand, you pour out the hand, pour out the hand, and then you throw to close gap, and then you'll throw his shots. Because the thing with southpaws, I remember one of our old trainers, God rest his soul in paradise, Frank Black, who used to work with all of the old fighters from back in the day for Mickey Duff. And Frank Black used to say that southpaw should be drowned at birth. He used to hate southpaws. And if you look at what makes a southpaw a good southpaw, most of the southpaws, they don't come forward. They box with you. Great southpaws. Marvin Hagler, very underrated boxer. Marvin Hagler is a superb boxer. Go watch Marvin Hagler's fights, especially his second fight with Mustafa Hamshaw. I think that was like 82, right? Hagler would throw his jab at you, weigh you down with a jab, double up on the jab with you. It was a super, but when Hagler knew he had to get rough and dirty with you, he'd get rough and dirty with you. So, but with southpaws like that, what made them difficult to beat is because they could control distance. If you close gaps on southpaws, they could be southpaw, orthodox, or they could be dead straight square ahead of you. It makes no difference. So Anthony Joshua has to work on taking away Alexander Usyk's advantages. And by closing the gap, closing the range, similar to what Holyfield did, when Holyfield closed gaps on you, he'd let his hands off on you. And as long as you let off your hands and don't try to go headhunting with this guy, you know what I mean, punch arms, you know what I mean, punch ribs. That's what Anthony has to use. He's got like some bully boy tactics. He's got to bring him in the show. Like, listen, I'm a bad man. That's how he's got. I would say, I don't think he should enter no boxing match with this guy. I mean, for the simple fact that you could enter a boxing match and you're playing him at his game. That's what he wants. I mean, that's what he wants. And I think if Anthony Joshua did that, it would come a cropper, because Anthony Joshua has accomplished a lot by being very, very athletic. And I think on this day, he's going to have to use the athleticism more than anything. This is just my opinion. I could well be wrong. For all I know, Anthony Joshua got out there and outboxed this guy. But I couldn't see that happening because of the feet of Usyk, and Usyk knows what he has to bring. But if you saw when Chisora stuck it on him, when Chaz Wilson tried to stick it on him, he was like, nothing in the tank. When he did that, then we saw he didn't look comfortable. And that's what you're gonna have to do with this guy. You're gonna have to take him out of his comfort zone. Anthony Joshua showed us when he fought Charles Martin, when he became the IBF world champion, that he's very good at pull counters. That's going to be paramount, but it's going to be a pull counter after he tries to bash him. You know what I mean? From a tight guard and march forward. I don't think Anthony Joshua should try to match him for boxing skill. And because as soon as you do that, you could be 2-3 rounds down.
Spencer's, a few pictures went around recently with Anthony Joshua. It looked like he had slimmed down, lost a bit of muscle, and obviously it seemed like, or it could be perceived as that might be the way forward of getting ready for a full 12-round fight, and similar to maybe Ruiz too. I'm not sure if you saw those images.
I did see those images, but I'm gonna be real. You can't box like how you box Ruiz against this guy, right? Forget about that one, right? And anybody trying to bring that game plan to say you have to box this guy like how you box Ruiz, you're giving away Anthony Joshua's titles. Yeah, that's that. And this is just my opinion. I could be totally wrong, but this is my opinion. And I reckon, like, of the fights that I've seen of Usyk, him at cruiserweight, if Anthony Joshua was a cruiserweight, I would say that Usyk's going to beat him. But this is not cruiserweight. This is a new enigma. This is the heavyweight division where Anthony Joshua can punch real hard too. You know what I mean? He can box. He's got Anthony Joshua is still a work in progress, where he's improving on certain things, right? But what Anthony Joshua should stick to is the fact that he has quick twitch fiber muscles, and he needs to work off of that, and he needs to fight off tempo to the on tempo that Usyk's gonna bring to him. So as soon as he sees like Usyk trying to do it, he should be firing straight right hands and left hooks. You know what I mean? In a pop, 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 throw those shots, right? And stand his ground, keep high guard, stand his ground, be focused with it. And every time that Usyk makes a move, to throw out his double jab. And deliberately throw out his double jab, because as Usyk likes to bounce, he'll go one way, then the next way. But if you throw a double jab at him, you've caught something, and then you can let go on your right hand.
So, you talk about power and Anthony Joshua's power. Obviously, Usyk's been there with Chisora, took some big shots from Chisora.
No, like Joshua.
Gassiev, a lot of people say Gassiev is one of the hardest punchers in boxing as well. He's obviously taking punches from...
Yeah, bro, Gassiev can bang. Gassiev don't punch like Anthony Joshua. Let's just keep this thing real. You know what I mean? Let's just keep this thing 100, right? And if we look historically, where we've seen cruiserweights go up to heavyweight, right? David Haye opted to box against Valuev, right? Yeah, he done really good because he had him gone in the last round. Evander Holyfield, when he beat Buster Douglas back in 1990, he used his speed against Buster Douglas, and he's also a lackluster Buster Douglas. Keep it going. Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson of February of 1990. So Buster Douglas was happy to collect that big 25 million check, right? But with this guy here, it's two different divisions, right? I'm just being real. And I believe that Anthony Joshua has done enough homework to say, right, I'm just going to stick it on you, right? And that's the way, that's how I see him winning. I can't see him winning any other way. You know what I mean? I can't see him winning any other way, but I do see Anthony Joshua coming out victorious. And I would say about 8 rounds. That's what.
So you're saying Anthony Joshua would, correct me if I'm wrong, would only win basically by stoppage or TKO? And
no,
okay.
No, you missed the whole point. I think Joshua could beat him up for 12 rounds too, just by imposing his will. It's like people seem to forget the night that he beat Klitschko, right? Anthony Joshua is still a work in progress and a novice, right? But he would have come on leaps and bounds because of that fight. But then after that fight, he fights Takam, and it's like, let's kind of go the Klitschko and the Lennox Lewis route, but let's just work behind our jab and box. And then it was a decent performance against Joseph Parker, but it was kind of a bit lackluster as well. You get what I'm trying to say? And that's because he was saying, yeah, you know what? I'm trying to get longevity in this game. I want to be a champion for like 10 years or whatever. I want to hold on to it, right. But on the reels, the thing that mainly excited us with Anthony Joshua, the way that Anthony Joshua would come out and put his hands together. And even though it's Michael Sprott, and this is no disrespect, Michael Sprott was well past at the time, but the way he put his hands together on Michael Sprott, the way he put his punches together on Kurt Johnson, that Anthony Joshua, that tyrannical beast, he's going to have to let his hands go. He's going to have to let his hands go on Usyk to let Usyk know that you're dealing with the heavyweights now, right? And I'm heavyweight champion for a reason.
Does Usyk have enough in him to potentially stop Joshua at any stage of the fight?
You never know, because he's so full of tricks. Yeah, so full of tricks, and he positions you for his shots, right? Look how he knocked at Tony Bellew. He positioned Tony Bellew to knock him out, right? And Tony was saying in his own admission, I spoke to Tony the other day. Tony was like, that guy's got excellent feet, Spence. But Tony Bellew was saying, you know what, I wish I boxed him at heavyweight. I mean, I wish I boxed him at heavyweight. I'm not saying that the result would have been different, but I wish I'd have boxed him at heavyweight. But because we had all the marbles on the table at cruiser, I thought, yeah, but I should have boxed him at heavyweight because you saw Tony Bellew, even though it wasn't old David Haye, but he looked really good against that old David Haye.
What's your final prediction for next Saturday night, Spence?
My final prediction for next Saturday night would be a smart, sharp anti-Joshua, because Anti is very athletic. Closing range early, hitting Usyk with power shots, Usyk not having it. And I think Anti-Joshua should be aiming the shots not for Usyk's head, but for his top of his chest. I would say similar to kind of the sharpness of what Tommy Hearns demonstrated against Roberto Duran when they fought. I think if he goes out and he does that, what was that, 1984? Bloody hell. The years go by so quick. I think that's how he's going to have to stick it on this guy, because the guy's got more tricks than Paul Daniels and David Copperfield combined together. So if he doesn't enter a boxing match, I can see Anthony Joshua stopping him. But even if he doesn't and he goes to rough him up and throw and use his athleticism, Anthony Joshua could win on points. But I still see Anthony Joshua stopping him. But I don't know why everyone's saying, well, Anthony Joshua has to stop him to win. No, I think Anthony Joshua can actually beat more points. I do not think it's going to be easy because the guy's feet are fantastic, but Anthony Joshua has to be 100% on this. If he's any 97% not on this mentally, then Usyk could soundly outpoint him, or maybe even stop him. And I'm just going to be real. But I think that Anthony, especially after he's learned from defeat and how he's come back, like I said, he wasn't being buried, he's being planted. I think Anthony Joshua, round 8 stoppage.
Okay, well, we look forward to it. Spence, before I let you go, I just want to get your just immediate reaction. We won't go into detail about these potential fights, but just want to get your immediate reaction. Today announced a man you know very well, South London's finest, Dillian Whyte, back at the O2 against Otto Wallin. Otto obviously coming off a great win over Dominic Brazil, obviously been in with Fury as well. What do you make of that fight for Dillian?
Good fight. I mean, good fight. Otto Wallin is a live opponent. And there was talk that it was going to be Chris Arreola, right? I think this is a better measuring stick, especially if you could put in a better performance than what Tyson Fury did. That's a good measuring stick, because Tyson Fury, by his own admission, said he'd fight Dillian Whyte in December. You know what I mean? And fingers crossed, I'd love to see that fight happen. 2 British fighters going at it, and it'd be an easier fight to make than Joshua versus Tyson Fury. So yeah.
Derek Chisora rematch against Joseph Parker just before Christmas.
Right. It depends what Derek Chisora's got left in him. Joseph Parker is a very, very good fighter. And I think if Joseph Parker is now settled in with Andy Lee, it's going to be a long, long night for Derek Chisora. But Derek Chisora is now teamed up with Dave Coolwell, right? So, well, gone back to Dave Coolwell. Sorry, right? Gone back to Dave Coolwell. And Dave doesn't get the credit that he should get as a boxing coach. He makes up good game plans. So great fight. I'm looking forward to that fight.
Spence, just want to go back last weekend. It was actually quite sad to see. I did end up staying up for it, but I just want to get your thoughts on the 58-year-old Evander Holyfield, the man we spoke about in high regards a few moments ago in the ring. Sad to see him in that state.
You know what? Famously, what was it? It was January, I think it's 27th January, 1988. An old, retired, come out of retirement, Larry Holmes winning with a young Tyrannosaurus Rex in Mike Tyson. And we said Larry was old then, and Larry Holmes was 38, right?
Wow.
So, right. He was old. He was old man then. Then it was different days, right? We said, oh, Larry's old. He's old, he's past it. And he got stopped in 4 rounds. right? Evander Holyfield is closer to 60 than he is to 50. And I saw Evander Holyfield doing the pads with John David Jackson, yeah? John David, don't get twisted, he was a really good fighter, John David Jackson, back in the day. Remember when he came over here and he beat Chris Pyatt? Really good fighter. But everybody should feel ashamed of themselves for being involved in that debacle. And that's exactly what it is. I spoke to Lennox Lewis today. He said, like, allegedly, Evander Holyfield got $3 million for that fight. And like, he offered to fight Belfort. He was saying, I'll fight him. And they were saying, no, because of the backlash that they've got from, because of the backlash that they got from the Holyfield fight, they couldn't get him. Because he was saying, nah, that's a little bit what they did to Holyfield. I would knock out Belfort. And he would. Lennox, I don't care what condition Lennox is in. He would knock out that brother. But you know what? The game is a game. And it's really sad to see a legend pee on his legacy like that. And I've said this many times before, that fighters are not the last to know they ain't got it no more. They're the last to admit it. And Evander Holyfield got roped into ego. You know when I knew it was going to be trouble? When they gave Evander Holyfield that statue, yeah? When he got the statue outside the stadium recently, I said, I bet you he's going to fight again. I bet you he's going to end up in one of these gimmick fights and all the rest of it. But like I said, when I saw Evander Holyfield hit the pads, he looked slower than Nelson's column, right? And it was disgusting that he was in there. But you know what? He got $3 million and allegedly, like, he was going through financial disturbance. So maybe that's helped him. But your health is your wealth. And if these things continue, we are going to see somebody get seriously hurt. In these gimmick fights, you're going to see somebody get seriously hurt. And then what? You know what I mean? It's bad enough that we got the anti-boxing brigade out heavily. But it seems like for these gimmick fights, I don't hear their mouth. And this is where we should hear their mouth more prevalent than anything else, and we don't hear them. And what I'm saying is I just wouldn't want to see a great legend like Evander Holyfield get hurt. And it was embarrassing to see that the other day, but you know what? I'm not going to remember Evander Holyfield for these joke fights. You know what I mean? Just like nobody's not going to remember Joe Louis for doing wrestling. You know what I mean? Because that's what he ended up doing at the end of the when his career was over and done with. We don't remember, you know what I mean? So I don't think nobody's really going to remember Evander Holyfield for that because he was 58 years old. But you got to ask yourself, who in their right mind at 58 is going to say that they're going to be climbing into a boxing ring? Nah, it is what it is. I'm just, you know, I'm glad that he didn't get seriously hurt.
Spencer, end on this. A couple of weeks ago, Maxi Hughes continued his great record and great winning streak, beating Giovanni Saffron on the undercard of Josh Warrington and Mauricio Lara. I just want to go to a tweet I actually saw from Maxi Hughes, giving all praise to the one, the knowledge himself. Just want to talk about obviously your relationship and obviously the support that you obviously provided, Maxi.
It's kind of weird. I'm gonna put it down. I did an ESPN show when Maxi Hughes boxed on it. You know that he went home and watched where I was doing a round by round analysis, and he was pretty impressed with our breakdown fights. And so he contacted me and said, Spence, like, you know, I'm going to be fighting Lara. Could you give me any pointers?
Saffron.
Any fights? Pardon me?
Saffron, not Lara.
Sorry, did I say Lara? Sorry, my apologies. Because Warren boxed Lara. Sorry. Yeah. So he goes like, can I give you any pointers? And I said, yeah. So when you start, it's kind of similar to like when I used to do the fight breakdowns when I was at Sky. When I had to do the fight breakdowns on there, I just write them out. When I start writing, I just start writing. I just watched a couple of tapes. And I got him to study Pernell Whitaker, how Pernell Whitaker sneakily would throw his overhand left. So I sent him a couple of Pernell Whitaker fights. When Pernell Whitaker was up against other southpaws, Anthony Brown was one of the guys that Pernell Whitaker boxed when he defended his undisputed lightweight title. And also his masterclass in 1989, was that August of 1989 against Jose Luis Ramirez. Go watch that fight. It's an incredible fight. That's one of the best performances I've ever seen ever. So I said, go study these fights. And I wrote out a paper for him. I wrote a paper and I said, yeah, just go. You know what I mean? No doubt. You know what I mean? He and his trainer, Sean, they said, yeah, you know what I mean? Fair play to them as well. I've got a lot of time for Maxi Hughes. He's a very, very nice guy, you know, very nice guy. So for him it weren't down to me. I just wrote out things that you should go watch and study. Don't, you know what I mean? Like I said, you're gonna have to wake up very early in the morning to say anybody who's watched more boxing than me. But there's two things of watching boxing and explaining to somebody that they can comprehend it. It's two different things. I'm just grateful that he won. I'm even more grateful that he gave me a shout. But there's been loads of fighters, like when they got their fights, and loads of big name fighters that they come to me for like fight footage of what to go and watch and study. Some people say, all right, then big up Spence. Some people don't say big up Spence, but it doesn't matter because like when we're talking, they're bigging me up, so it's cool.
Mm. And so what did that show you about someone like Maxi? Obviously, I know he's got, was it 5 defeats on his record, but he's won 4-5 on the bounce now. I know he's an IBO champion. But what does that show about dedication and continuously studying the art? Because no matter how many fights you have, no matter how many losses you had, but you can always learn and become better.
If you watch the things that Maxi Hughes does, right, it's just like certain times where things are going to come where it's going to click for you, right? And if you look at him, who's not an out-and-out puncher, but stylistically, the guy's really good. And you can see, like, when he's in the ring now, he feels comfortable being in there. Maybe on the other losses and everything else, that he just wasn't comfortable. He was trying too hard to be something that he wasn't. But now he realizes that, you know what makes me better now? I'm a southpaw, I'm hard to hit, I've got a good work rate, and also on top of that, I've got an excellent boxing brain. He has got an excellent boxing brain, right? Let's not get twisted. Maxi Hughes has got a wonderful boxing brain, and he puts it in motion, and he did. He put it in motion, and he could have stopped Saffron in that fight as well. I was like, at the time when he was sticking on him, because that was my prediction. He said, well, how do you see it going? I said, no, I think you could stop him, right? He said, for us, I think you couldn't stop him. And yeah, it came very close to it. But you know what? It's nice to see like good guys get success out of boxing. And for me to be real, fighters themselves, I don't know no horrible fighters or nasty. I haven't met any. I've been really fortunate. I haven't met any. So yeah, it's nice to see what he's done. And you know what? And I'd love for him to get a fight with Devin Haney or a big money fight. I'd just love for him to go get. I mean, I'd love for him to get a really big money fight because he's a nice kid, man. Now I've got a lot of time for him.
Spencer Fearon, IFL TV. Thank you very much.
Salute.